And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Monday morning's flying weather. IFR with southwest flow ahead of the front out here. A lot of moisture putting IFR from now into the eastern Aleutians, westward here to at least across Adak and Amchitka, northeastward, right up into the Bering Strait, and some IFR here over the north central interior. Otherwise, southern Alaska from Bristol Bay all the way across the southeast coast, VFR. And then for the afternoon, VFR here through most of the interior. We've got this narrow band of marginal VFR here right along the Kobuk Valley into the Yukon Flats, and then kind of southward here across the Yukon River. Otherwise, the North Slope Arctic Coast, VFR to the south into the Gulf of Alaska. And again, Bristol Bay to the southeast coast, good VFR. And a band of IFR holding out here over the central Aleutians, extending northeastward there, and across the Yukon Delta, Norton Sound, southern Seward Peninsula, up into the southern slopes of the far western Brooks Range area. And for the afternoon, or for Tuesday morning, that shifts inland here and starts to break up some IFR with that south to southwest flow on the southern slopes of the Brooks Range here, and then downsloping gives VFR for the North Slope, marginal VFR for the Arctic coast, more IFR from the Seward Peninsula on down across the Yukon Delta to just northwest of Bethel, and then marginal VFR covering the Bering Sea and the Alaska Peninsula with a couple of areas of IFR over the Aleutians. And to the east and southeast here, VFR again, south central Alaska, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, all of the Panhandle. And then for the afternoon, that continues here. So a couple more VFR days here for southern Alaska, not too bad over the eastern interior. IFR persisting here south of the western Brooks Range, and another batch over the Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound area, Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island, and then improving here with this area of IFR kind of falling to pieces out here over the Aleutians and central Bering Sea. And for passes for tomorrow, Anaktuvik and Adigan, marginal VFR, and for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, either approach, rainy, same forecast, good VFR, and for windy, good VFR as well. Isabel, another VFR day there, and Mentasta as well. Tanita, a good VFR in either entrance. Portage, VFR once again, and Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels here, 2,000 feet, way even south of the Gulf of Alaska now, and down south of Dixon Entrance, right across the Queen Charlotte's there. And then with the southerly flow, southwest flow here, much warmer air coming up into the Bering Sea, 2,000 feet there up into the Chukchi Sea, and followed by 4, 6, 8, 10, 12,000 feet, almost up to Adak Island. And for icing, out here to the west, got some possible considerable moderate rime icing here with that front dragging into the western Aleutians, and then some of that coming up and over the top of that ridge and more westerly flow pulling it in here to the northwest part of the state, and could be some considerable moderate icing there for the northwest coast as well. Otherwise icing free everywhere else. In the jet stream, high pressure at 33,000 feet here over the southwest part of the state. Northerly flow, north-northeast winds, 110 to 120 knots there from the eastern border, blowing right across the Eagle area down into the North Gulf Coast. And then on the back side of that ridge, we've got the southwest flow up to 130 knots there coming in toward the, actually into the Russian Far East here, lighter winds in toward the Seward Peninsula. And at 9,000 feet, that area winds a little farther to the east here at this elevation, 45 to 55 knots here out of the south-southwest. And then northerly winds, or northerly winds 35 knots here across the Kenai Peninsula, and northeast 35 knots over the northern Panhandle. And at 3,000 feet, 25 to 35 knot winds here for the Lynn Canal Glacier Bay area over to about Yakutat there. Light over the southeast interior and eastern interior all the way to the Arctic coast, and then southwest 65 knots there blowing along the western Arctic coast to 50 knots down in toward the Bering Strait area, and then diminishing as you head down toward the Pribilof Islands at about 35 knots. Light for the Aleutians, And turbulence, with those strong winds up there, quite an area of considerable moderate turbulence here. Western North Slope, Western Brooks Range, down across Kotzebue Sound, Selawik, and the Noatak Valley there, into all of the Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound. Throw in St. Lawrence Island too, be a pretty bumpy ride out in that area. And the Northern Panhandle, we've got some pretty good mechanical turbulence going on there with those northeast winds. Lynn Canal Glacier Bay area.